Hello everyone, this is Dr. Creepy, and thank you for joining me here today and tonight. It's been a while, but I'm finally in a position to where I can bring you more videos now in a more consistent manner. So here's a couple creepy night shift stories to get started again. And let's get on with it. I work in a government building downtown, and my shift begins at 11 p.m. Throughout the night, I'm the only one here, and I sit in a very small room to watch the surveillance cameras that surround the building. Up until tonight, I have never had to call the director for any reason or incident. I was doing what I always do, which was relax. I watch Netflix on my phone, and I'd be lying if I said that I didn't fall asleep sometimes. Hell, I'd be lying if I said I didn't fall asleep most of the time. On this one particular night, I remember I had fallen asleep at 3:15 in the morning, and I had one of those dreams that made me wake up abruptly, like when you're falling off of something. I could not remember exactly what the dream was about as soon as I had woken up, and I'm pretty sure that my body was just trying to tell me that I needed to wake up. As I reached for my Coke that was on the desk next to the monitor, I froze. On camera B5, which was the camera leading east from the lobby, there was a woman. She was walking slowly, and she was out of sight in just a few seconds. I was confused at first because nobody should be in this building with me. But then my heart started beating faster when I came to the realization that the hallway she had walked down was the hallway that leaded right to me. I looked at the live feed of the next camera she would pass through, the one that shows the room that is just outside of my office. And I thought to myself of how ridiculous this is, because I am here specifically for this one reason and this one purpose, and I am too afraid to move. Maybe it's because she didn't look usual. Her long hair covered her face. I waited for her to appear in the room, but she never did. I looked at the feet of the hallway again, and there's nothing there. So I picked up the company phone and called my boss. "Hey Ben, sorry to wake you. I saw a woman on the monitor in the east hallway." He was confused at first, and he then told me to do the one thing I was hoping he wouldn't tell me to do. He told me to go find her. So I hung up the phone, and I assured myself that I am the man. I am here to kick out people that don't belong in here, and that this is my building. I grabbed my flashlight, which is all I had, and opened the door. The woman was not in the room connected to the office, and after making sure of that, I opened the door to the east hallway. And as soon as I opened up the door, I saw the woman walking fast towards me at the opposite end of the hall. As I opened my mouth to say something, something in me told me to stop. The way she was walking, it seemed threatening. I did not want her to physically reach me, so I closed the door And shit, I realized there's no lock on this door. So I ran back to my office and closed that door, and thankfully found a lock on this one. As I looked at the monitor again, I almost fainted. The woman was there, standing right outside the door to my office. How did she get here so fast? She was terrifying. Her hair was so long, and she stood at the door facing it like a statue. As I fumbled around the desk again to try to grab the company phone, I saw her turn around and simply walk away. I didn't leave the office for the rest of the night until the morning, and I never saw that woman again. I worked at a hospital, and there's this one particular room where I work that definitely has something going on with it. Patients would normally pass away in that room more than any other room in the building, most of whom would claim to see a woman in the upper corners of the room behind the door or behind the curtains. When they were pressed to describe who she or her is, they'll just point in a general direction and just repeat the phrase, "It's her." Never speaking of her in the past tense, it's always present tense, as if she's there with us in the very moment. In that room, lights will flicker, usually when they're just turned off. Sort of like a surge in a sense, as if they're trying to turn back on. Patients often complained about someone whispering hey or breathing in their ear while they are trying to sleep as well. I've dismissed all this stuff as, yes, lots of people die in that room. And it's more likely to have people in it because it is room number 1. Always on the most critical part of the hospital where the most critical patients are placed, right next to the nurse's station. One evening while I was making rounds at about 2:30 a.m., I walked past the room, and all the lights were off and the door was closed since there was nobody inside of it. I came back by about 3 a.m., and the door was open about 2 feet. The bedside light was on, and the curtain had been pulled all around the furthest bed from the door. There I could see a silhouette of a person standing right through the curtain. Thinking it was a coworker trying to scare me since we would scare each other all the time, I figured I was going to try to scare them myself. As I slipped inside the door and tiptoed across the room, I tried to grab them through the curtain, fully expecting to grab a physical person, but there was nothing but air. I leaned forward so far that I actually wound up falling across the bed. Whatever I had seen inside the curtain was not there anymore, and a cold shiver ran up my spine. Hearing my heart pounding in my ears, I took what felt like forever to look back towards the door, and the bathroom light was then suddenly off. But it started pulsing and fluttering as if it was trying to come back on. I bolted towards the door and ran towards the nurse's station where all my co-workers were there chatting and up doing charts. And they all laughed at me when I told them what had happened. They jokingly accused me of having a night terror and told me to stop sleeping on the job. Now, anytime I go in that room, I will say something in the name of Jesus or any other kind of prayer just to make myself feel safer when I go inside that room. But I'm still very scared, despite all of that. I used to work the night shift at the state prison in my hometown of Tucson, Arizona. I have a lot of stories I could tell about those times, but normally I would work in the control room with my good buddy George, who became a extended member of our family due to all the time that we worked together. On this one particular night, all the inmates were asleep, and George had passed out because we were the only ones really there keeping an eye on the inmates from the control room. When I started suddenly hearing footsteps coming down the Unit 1 walkway. Being the only one in the control room, I grabbed my flashlight and woke George up so I could go take a look. I run myself down the unit, checking each cell and checking for any other of my colleagues that might be maybe a little out of place. And there's nobody there. As I start walking back towards the control room, the lights that make up the majority of the corridor are flickering on and off. It is an old prison, so I thought maybe it's just the power. Because power surges kind of happened out there, because it's really in the middle of nowhere beyond the highway where this prison is located. When I get back to the control room, George tells me that as I was walking down the corridor, there was somebody walking behind me. But when we looked back down the corridor, there was nobody there. When I was younger, my dad had his own carpet and tile business that he would use to help raise and support his family, myself included, and he did pretty well for himself. Sometimes he would take me with him and I would help him carry the buckets of water so he would have less stress on his body as he did the more manual work. Now, on this one particular call that we had for a job, it was to clean a call center very late at night after hours. This particular call center, the building had previously been a mini clinic, kind of like you would go to, like, say, if you're sick and don't want to go to the emergency room. And it was converted into a call center, which the name escapes me. But the gist of the story, as we're doing the job, it's around 3 o'clock in the morning and the power keeps going out. Now, there's nobody else in the building and all the equipment is off, so there's no logical or rational reason for this. We're about 90% done with the job, and for some reason on this one part of the building, the power just will not stop going off any time that we try to clean it. It happened a good 4 or 5 times, and on the 5th time it actually broke a piece of our equipment and we had to go home to repair. By the time we get back, it's about 4:30. And again, the power goes out anytime that we try to run the equipment over this part of the building. There were cold spots all throughout this part of the building as well, even though we live in Arizona and it was summer at the time. And it was a good 85 degrees inside the building itself. Come to find out, somebody had actually died in that part of the building when it was still a hospital.